Witcher has come out, the first season. What did you guys think? General impressions, positive,
first
negative.
impressions.
Yeah.
It's taken the world by storm, but I don't really understand why. Maybe, I mean, it's a little overhyped in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but I have my gripes.
Yeah, I personally liked it a lot because I don't see too many fantasy TV shows that do it well. So this is definitely one of the ones that I would say have higher production value. The people in it, like the actors and stuff, they sold it for me. I thought that, I know some of you here think it's a little corny, but personally for me, I thought it was fine. So yeah, you want to...
I'm sorry, but like even the first episode when I was hearing what's his name, Witcher's voice,
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, Henry Cavill's voice. I was like, is he trying to be like a wizard Batman? Every time he's like, oh god.
But that sounds awesome.
But
Wizard
then
Batman.
that's his character, though.
I get it, but I literally could. I just was laughing. Like even the moment where he was having sex with Yennefer, it was just like I don't know what line he said, but
It was probably like or fuck.
But the whole thing about a Witcher is like they're supposed to have like no emotion, so I understand.
I get it, but I just felt I wish they could have done it in a way that was more believable and not like, kind of corny.
Yeah, there needs to be believable dialogue if you're gonna have a voice like that. Like if you're gonna have a distinct kind of thing, there has to be something important coming out too,
Yeah.
I mean, my first impression, like, I really liked it. I could see why people wouldn't, because it is like sometimes it's like corny. Maybe first 2 episodes you have to kind of get used to the language, the world, like the universe that it's in. Kind of like Game of Thrones. Like there was maybe like a 3 episode for me that I had to watch to get into it. But I mean, overall, I want to say it's pretty good once you get past like that there's 3 timelines.
Yeah, I think it's also the style for me. Some characters talk with a lot of seriousness,
Exactly.
and others are just pure levity.
Yeah.
And just the tone
Like
just
the bar.
goes, it just jumps
the
all
bar.
over. It jumps all over the place for
Yeah.
me.
I definitely, especially going back to the part when he had sex with Yennefer. So like,
You can't get over it.
We're gonna go back to it a lot.
no, like that's a good example of the tonal shift. Like there was a part where it came off a little bit. At one point, it was like supposed to be all like, I guess maybe it was supposed to be fun and a little cheesy, but then all suddenly, like I don't know what magic thing was going on, but he was like yelling at her, and it was like, what the hell? And it was like I'm like, is this supposed to be serious? And I'm
Things
like,
flying
again,
around.
and keep in mind, this is supposed to be this whole brooding character, so I'm assuming that if he's yelling, that's like supposed to be a serious moment.
Yeah, but
it came off too like the way it just came across. It just came off too like.
Was it like gimmicky?
My own first impressions of the show, generally, I really enjoyed it because kind of like what Scott said, like it's a fantasy show, and generally I feel like I have a bias towards liking fantasy adventure type shows.
Yeah.
But then also for that reason, I feel like in the past I've really disliked a lot of the stuff that I've seen in that genre, just because a lot of it is not very good.
Name one.
One good one or one bad
one?
Like people really liked Merlin, which I didn't really like. And like at least the stuff that I watched of it was I didn't really care for it. I think that Game of Thrones has just been like that thing that's filled that genre for the past couple years.
That's true.
But Game of Thrones wasn't like super into fantasy. Like there was fantasy bits in it, like largely towards the end.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like immersed,
True.
kind of like Lord of the Rings.
It's like there was magic, and then when we were watching it in that kind of generation, there wasn't magic.
Yeah, I think
magic was
I
very
think the
old.
books, I think the books covered magic a lot more. I didn't read the books, but that's what I've sort of heard for Game of Thrones. And for Witcher, it's sort of decides to say we're full on magic right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
I appreciate because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like it's something different from what we've been getting for the past couple of years.
Exactly.
And I also feel like it's quality, in my opinion. I feel like what we've seen, the production behind it, the writing behind it, I really appreciated the structure of the show.
Yeah, I think the production is great, especially the way they do magic.
Yeah.
I think none of it was poorly done.
Right.
This kind of reminds me of like the original trilogy of Star Wars, and then the prequels. The prequels has more lightsaber battles, whereas Game of Thrones is like the original trilogy, and Witcher is like what came after, and there's more magic and there's more action and the dialogue's not as good, but people love it. You know,
Give
that's
the people
what
what
this
they want.
reminds me of. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree, and that was the main thing that again got me engaged with this. Like the fight scenes alone to me were very,
Ooh, that
very
first
Fight
episode
interesting.
choreo,
fight scene
yeah,
was
I will
very-
give it that. That scene was really good. I think the fight choreo was really good, and him just swinging around a broadsword, no problem. That was really cool to see.
I think that's probably like hands down my favorite fight scene from The Witcher when he was fighting with Renfrey, and
that was like the first episode.
yeah,
though.
it was
they
the
kind of
first
just
episode. They had
pulled
to
that
draw you
out
in,
first
yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
But every scene after that was like okay. And then the only thing that I didn't like about The Witcher was like is supposed to be someone that can fight really well, but every battle scene after that he kind of just got hurt or like thrown around.
This kind of goes back to the timeline because you can make the argument that that was probably before. So
Yeah,
maybe
but
That's
hasn't he
true.
lived a very long time?
Yeah,
True.
And
and
even
that's a bad thing. Like nobody ages.
not just him. I feel like they weakened all the witches and all the other magical people. I thought they were going to be a little more
Stronger.
OP, being all magical beings against one Fringilla, right?
Yeah.
But they all, I don't know, messed up or something, and they just didn't look that strong to me. They were all dying left and right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
that's
could
true.
have they could have made that battle scene into 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I guess my reason why I consider this overhyped, because like I think the expectations. My problem is again the high expectations, because like there's a lot of memes saying like, "Oh, I can't wait for season 3," and I'm like, "Well, season 2 hasn't come out, so like, why is everyone wanting season 3 already?" So I was thinking to myself like, "Oh my god, this show must be like I didn't want to compare it to Game of Thrones, but if people want a season 3, like this got to be the next."
If you watched Game of Thrones, it's hard. Like in the back of my mind, I'm
I don't
thinking about
think
it.
so. Like, I mean, you can enjoy two things at the same time. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think
It's completely different.
I don't think that
You
this
can.
is better than Game of Thrones at this point. I
Well,
think it
actually,
has potential.
I think the marketing, they kind of wanted it
Well,
to fill the void for a lot
right,
of people
true,
that
true,
liked
true.
Game of
Yeah.
Thrones.
But I'm just saying.
That's
I'm just saying,
marketers'
like,
fault.
as
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying that as
You're not
the
wrong.
show is right now,
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily better than Game of Thrones.
Hell no.
I think it can get to that point eventually if they continue on and they improve the writing and they continue.
Yeah, but
the
how many
story.
people liked season 1 of Game of Thrones?
Not very many, and people
Exactly.
don't really even remember that. People don't remember that, like the first season of Game of Thrones, nobody
Sucked.
was really on that.
Yeah.
Okay, let
I'm
me.
not gonna
I'll
say
be-
it sucked.
Okay, it
but
didn't suck,
It
but
didn't
I
suck. I
don't
was
think
just
it
saying that.
It was
sucked.
really, really slow.
It was really slow.
It's
It was
hard to get into.
Yeah.
And like, it was
Season
really hard to
1
get
was
into.
like the entire
I like the
first
slow burn
book.
though.
you liked it now, but I'm just saying, like back when it was like back then, not a lot of people were on the show,
Yeah.
and I even like. I remember, okay, so for me, I remember watching the first episode like 3 separate times to get into it. And
I didn't
the-
remember a single thing from the first episode.
Yeah, like
Well,
I watched
remember.
it 3 separate times to get into it, and like there were like months and sometimes years between like the different times.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
really get into it until like season 4 or 5 was when I started to watch it from the
Yeah,
beginning.
for me,
That's fair. I think
Okay.
everyone had a very similar relationship with the first season and the first episode. I did the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. I watched the first 2 episodes like a couple different occasions without really remembering what happened each time I went back into
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
but if I'm gonna compare just first seasons, I'd say The Witcher was more interesting to me. Game of Thrones, obviously we have the power of hindsight. We've seen the
Yeah.
complete thing. The ending kind of ruined it a lot for me. But
Yeah.
but despite the ending, like say I was watching it like while I was on season 5 or 6, while looking back at season 1, I'm like, I can appreciate these scenes way more. I liked more of. I never watched like the actual episode by episode. I watched like scenes like in clips about like a character's journey or something, and I liked it way more like in that like storytelling way.
Yeah. Agreed. I
Yeah.
think that it's
And
the
season
slow
1
burn.
is like it's all about character development and building up the character and getting to know it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it's a good show.
Yeah, I think that future coming in, it's going to be better. Obviously,
Yeah.
it has a lot of potential. I mean, again, I don't think it's horrible by any means. Like, it's definitely enjoyable to watch. It's just again the hype thing was the main thing that I feel
Right,
A
right.
little
that
overhyped,
it was
yeah.
a little
It might
overhyped.
be honestly, I'm just thinking like logically, it could be like budget reasons. They had to cram everything into 8 episodes, and I feel like
That's
it's
another thing. I wish
I
I
That's-
had
wish
more,
more
episodes.
episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is too, honestly. I'll give
because who
I'll give it
knows?
that.
Like who knows if
Yeah.
it was gonna like do well or not?
Yeah, I think that like while it might be like to your guys' point, overhyped, I think that overhype helps it in the long run. 'Cause
Agreed.
if more people are watching it, then they're like, oh, people are interested in it. Let's put more money into this.
Yeah.
Let's put more resources.
They'll renew it for more episodes.
Yeah.
That could happen. But then my other thing
That's
is
what
like,
happened with Game of Thrones, but the last season was shit.
that's true. That's one thing. And then another thing is like, if they're going based off the book, like maybe like going back to why the confusion comes in, maybe it's just because of the book. So we don't know if
Yeah,
there'll
I think.
be more
Well,
confusion.
according to the books, they eventually like become a long narrative. It's like it starts out with short stories that aren't very connected, but then it becomes a long narrative.
narrative.
Yeah.
So
So yeah.
A lot of shows start off that way.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Supernatural. It was like Monster of the Week,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
eventually it's gonna become like a long plot with like a good payout at the end.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for. I think the dialogue. I wish the dialogue was like a little better. I think it's corny sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, I guess. I can't get over some of the dialogue, some of the changes in tone. So then, like, I get out of it sometimes. That's
Yeah,
the only
definitely.
thing. I get taken out of it, and then I have to come back in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like you definitely have to be in like some sort of mood to watch it, so that
Toss a coin to your Witcher, though.
yeah. Takeaway.
I like that.
That's the only takeaway from The Witcher.
Yeah, I can listen to that on repeat.